You know how it is. We've all been there, right? You decide you're finally going to start meditating or maybe flossing every single night. You are motivated. You are ready to go. And then a week later, poof, it's like it never even happened. What if I told you the problem isn't your motivation? It's not about willpower at all. What if it's about hacking your brain's own reward system? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the neuroscience behind a really simple but powerful method to finally make those good habits stick. So let's start with the big question. Why is it so hard? Why does trying to build a new habit feel like you're fighting against this invisible current? Well, because you kind of are. See, our brains are designed for one thing above all else: efficiency. And that means they absolutely love running on autopilot. When you try to force a new behavior, you're not just fighting an old bad habit, you're literally fighting your own biology. And this is where we almost always go wrong. We blame ourselves. We think, I just need more discipline, more willpower. But the secret isn't about gritting your teeth and pushing harder. It's about working with your brain chemistry, not against it. It's less about using brute force and more about being a clever engineer of your own mind. Okay, so instead of focusing on willpower, let's just jump straight to the answer. I want to give you a practical formula you can use today. It's a beautifully simple hack that uses the habits you already have to build the ones you want. It's called habit stacking. The whole idea, which was popularized by James Clear, it's brilliantly simple. You anchor a new habit you want to do onto an existing habit you already do without even thinking about it. The formula is right there. After my current habit, I will do my new habit. And this doesn't just remind you, it creates a powerful automatic trigger inside your brain. And look at how this works in the real world. Notice how specific these are. It's not just, I'll meditate in the morning. No, it's after I pour my morning coffee. Think about it. Your brain already has a super highway paved for that coffee routine. All you're doing is building a small, new off-ramp. You're not trying to build a whole new road from scratch. So we have the method, habit stacking. It's simple, it's actionable, but to really make it stick, we need to understand why it works so well. And the answer is pretty fascinating. It lies in these two competing systems that are running the show inside your head at all times. Think of your brain like a gardener. Seriously. Every time you do something or think a thought, you're strengthening the connection, the synapse, between your brain cells. The connections you use all the time, they become strong, efficient superhighways. And the ones you neglect, well, the brain, your gardener, just prunes them away to save energy. This is how habits become automatic. They're literally wired into your biology. So this all breaks down into two main systems. First, you've got the conscious planner. It's model-based, meaning it uses a mental map to think and plan ahead. It's slow, it's deliberate, and man, it takes a ton of energy. But then you have the autopilot. It's model-free. It doesn't need a map. It just runs on learned cues and muscle memory. It's fast, automatic, and incredibly efficient. The whole goal of building a new habit is to move it from the planner to the autopilot. So how does the autopilot system actually learn? I mean, what's the mechanism that's writing the code for these automatic behaviors? Well, the answer comes down to one of the most famous chemicals in the brain, dopamine. But its role is, let's be honest, widely misunderstood. You see, dopamine isn't really the pleasure chemical. It's more like the chemical of anticipation and surprise. And its main job in learning is to signal something called a reward prediction error. In simple terms, it's just the gap between what you expected would happen and what you actually got. If the outcome is better than you predicted, bam, you get a hit of dopamine. And this creates this incredibly powerful learning loop. That burst of dopamine, it's like a bright yellow highlighter for your brain. It tags the action you just took and sends a really clear message. Hey, that was good. Remember that and do it again. Over time, these highlighted actions become your automatic habits. And the research puts it perfectly. This isn't just some pop psychology idea. It's a core finding in neuroscience. When things go better than you thought, you get a dopamine spike. When they're worse than you thought, dopamine levels actually dip below the baseline. This constant chemical feedback is subtly training your brain's autopilot every single day. But, and there's always a but, this incredibly efficient system has a dark side. Because the autopilot is so good at what it does, it can become fixated on the cue for a reward. So much so that it starts to care more about the cue than the reward itself. A classic experiment shows this perfectly. Researchers taught rats that a bell means food is coming. Now, some rats, the goal trackers, they hear the bell and they run straight to the food bowl. They're focused on the reward. But other rats, the sign trackers, they become obsessed with the cue. They hear the bell and start gnawing on the bell itself, completely ignoring the food. Their autopilot has been totally hijacked by the sign. And this is where it gets really serious. That sight tracking tendency isn't some random quirk. It's a powerful demonstration of the autopilot system at work. And it's actually a strong predictor for addiction vulnerability. The brain becomes so fixated on the cue, the sight of a notification on your phone or a bar or drug paraphernalia, that the cue itself triggers this intense, automatic craving. Okay, so knowing all this, the power of the autopilot, the role of dopamine, the potential pitfalls, how do we take back control? How do we become the architects of our own automatic systems instead of just being passengers along for the ride? And this brings us right back to where we started. Habit stacking is no longer just a clever little trick. You can see it now as a method for conscious programming. You are intentionally choosing a reliable, pre-existing cue, like making your coffee, and using it to install a new, desirable behavior directly into your brain's autopilot. You are, in essence, deliberately creating a positive addiction, a healthy sign-tracking response that actually serves your goals. Now, to make this really work for you, your habit stack needs to follow a few key rules. First, the cue has to be incredibly specific. When I take a break is way too vague. When I close my laptop for lunch, now that's a crystal clear trigger. Second, the frequency has to match. You can't try to stack a daily habit on top of something you only do on Mondays. It just won't work. And really, it all comes down to this one key idea. Specificity is everything. A clear, unambiguous cue removes the need to think or decide or use any willpower. It just allows your autopilot to take over and run the program that you've written for it. So here's the bottom line. Your brain is going to form habits one way or another. It's a habit-building machine, and it's running 24/7. It will build them automatically based on whatever random cues and rewards it happens to stumble upon in your life. The only question left is, are you going to let that happen by chance, or are you going to be the architect?